Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Friday. It's the 10th of November, 2023. My name is Carey Holzman, and thank you guys so much for joining me today as we have a review in store for you today with this new Peladn mini PC, which has got to be one of the heaviest mini PCs I've ever experienced. It's not any bigger, it's a lot heavier. And we're going to find out why. I come from an age where good stuff that was made was generally heavy. I mean, there was usually a way you could tell if something was quality or not by how heavy it was. And I know many of you out there know exactly what I'm talking about. Back in the day of buying a telephone, remember landlines? There were some cheap phones that were plasticky and you couldn't slam them down. You're afraid you'd crack them. But the good phones, like the phones the phone company would rent to you, back in the day when you couldn't buy a telephone, you could only rent it. Those things were like solid. You could slam them down. You could hit somebody over the head with it. That thing just was quality. I had no other way to put it. You never really saw bad telephones. They were built to take abuse, and they were built quality. And they didn't, cut corners in the materials and the design to try and shave money off. They were trying to build it right the first time, so they didn't have to keep replacing them, which ends up costing companies more money. So I get the feeling what we're dealing with here is something high quality, because that's been my experience. That's usually a good sign, unless there's a brick in there. I've already opened it. I've already updated it and gone through the Windows setup so we can get on with the review much faster today. And yeah, I'm impressed with it. Here's a sneak peek of what's coming. I think you will be too. First, let me say hello to everybody here in the chat room. Thanks, you guys, for joining today. And a thank you especially to those who have given a super chat here even prior to the show starting. Kicking it off by Paul O'Brien with a €2 contribution. He said he's really ready to learn and willing to listen. It's I don't know how much there is really to learn about this as we explore it and discover it together. I think would be more apropos term, because it's there's nothing we need to fix, right? We just need to see what features it has and what you get for the money, and we'll explore that value. And of course, at the end of the day, what you determine to be a value may be different than what I determine to be a value, what you expect for your money. And that'll be up to you to decide as we explore this together. Thank you, Paul. Mark Gaines renews his membership, now a member for 18 months. I think that's the first, no, does that say 18? Wow. I think that's the first 18 month I've seen. So it means we started these memberships 18 months ago. Thank you so much for being members, guys. I can't thank you enough. He says, hello, Carey, Marlena, and everyone in the chat. Yes, Mara is in the chat. She is, she'll answer your questions and participate in the chat throughout today's broadcast, so I can focus on what I'm doing here. And yeah, so welcome in to all of you. Say hello to Marlena. Chat room. Ben Laird with a £5 contribution joins us all the way from Scotland, as does our good friend Buster, Peter Laycock, with a £10 contribution. Says, good evening, Carey and Marlena, and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh is 37 degrees Fahrenheit or 2 degrees Celsius. Thank you as always, Buster. Mara and I, hopefully this weekend, we'll be able to make you a video. We owe you a little private video to say thank you and just let you know that we're thinking about you and how much we appreciate you and your generosity and support. It's been a while, and we're long overdue for that. So do know that as soon as she's not here today, she's but we will. That's on my to-do list. So watch for that. And thank you again for everything you've done for the channel. And thanks to all of you, because without all of you together, well, this channel would be very different in a bad way. You guys make it so much better. And I want you to know each and every one of you is appreciated far more than I can express. And yeah, this community here is absolutely amazing. So thank you for being a part of this amazing community. I don't know how else to say it. Now, getting with today's review. Oh, wait. Michael Dane Jr. contributes $10 in Super Chat. He says, my father wants to thank you, Carey, and members for all your prayers and good thoughts. Well, right on. You know, honestly, I don't think he needed them, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And we're certainly so relieved to hear that he's back home now, right? We had a little medical issue there that could have been a lot worse. Speaking of which, we just heard Steve Wozniak had a mini, what appears to be a mini stroke. And now he's back in the U.S. So, yeah, that stuff can be scary. You know, strokes can be very serious or they can be minor. Some people can have a stroke, not even realize they've had one. And some people are just tougher than other people. And Michael Dane, he's the man. He comes across as, he comes across as a fighter. To me, you know, you as you talk to people, you kind of get a feeling for some people that they can take care of themselves quite well. And they're not an easy thing for things like the pandemic or illnesses to keep them down very long. They're fighters. He comes across to me as a very strong fighter. And it certainly helps that the situation wasn't as bad as it could have been. But regardless, full confidence that it would have to be something really significant to take somebody of that level of endurance down. But either way, delighted, no idea, relieved that everything is working out, and hopefully he'll continue to get care for that so it doesn't continue. I'm sure he will. Steve H. contributes $10. He says, hey, Carey, I served over 20 years in the Navy, and I'd like to thank you for serving the community with providing valuable PC learning techniques. Steve, thank you for your service. Tomorrow, as a reminder, the 11th of November, Saturday, it's Veterans Day, and we give our thanks, our deepest, heartfelt, sincerest appreciation for all of those that have made the sacrifice, that have volunteered, even for people that didn't volunteer back in the selective service days of the Vietnam War and had to go whether they liked it or not. We absolutely appreciate, more than words can say, your sacrifice to this great country, and we will do what we can to our abilities to support our veterans. We do have another PC giveaway with the mini HP PCs ongoing. If you are a veteran and you have never received a gift from the channel before, and you'd like to nominate yourself to receive one of the free PCs, please leave a comment. After this video is done, there'll be a comment section, and let us know that you are nominating yourself and why you should be selected. We want, ideally, to get these PCs to the people who will benefit the most from them. And I guess because I announced this in the middle of yesterday's video, few people have seen it. I haven't seen any nominations from yesterday's video. So I'll put it right in the beginning here. And if you're also just a family in need, at times are hard, and a mini PC can help you. These little HP mini PCs are off-lease business computers. They have Windows 10 Pro. They're solid-state drives. They're quiet. They're fast. They're built like a brick. They're solid. They're only good for Windows 10. They do not support Windows 11. So you'll get about 2 years out of it until you're going to have to find another solution or change the operating system to one that's safe to use on the internet after at the end of 2025. So thank you guys for watching, and good luck to everybody who wants to nominate themselves. Craig Casabona is now a member for 3 months. Right on, Craig. He says, hey, Carey, did you see the Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim 2 CPU cooler? I love it. It's so easy to install. Nice to see you live. Thanks. Didn't we do a Pure Rock Slim cooler? Maybe not the 2. The problem I have with the Slim coolers is they really need to be put on CPUs that are not difficult to cool, because you don't have much heat sink there. So I'm not sure how it's changed, or if in fact that was a Slim 2 that we had, but we did do one of them, about a year ago, I want to say. And I think back then I might have had an issue with the mounting mechanism, but I know Be Quiet has improved that. But yeah, if you're not trying to cool, a high TDP processor, I'm sure it's great. So I'm challenged right now with trying to get a 14900K and a 12900K to run within operational temperatures during high intense use like Prime 95. And the messages I'm getting from people who have these processors is you may not be able to do it with any cooler on the market without going into the BIOS and tuning down some things, which is not what I want to do, but we'll get to that probably next week. So getting on with today, thanks everybody for your contributions, your support, your kind words, and for hanging out with us today on this mid-November, early November Friday. The weekend is ahead of us. And we have a very interesting little mini PC here that I think you're going to find as interesting as I have. Let me jump over to the Amazon page describing it before I take it out of the box, so you guys get an idea of what we're about to explore here together. Where's my window capture? There it is. So this is the Peladn. It's called the HA-4. It's an AMD Ryzen 7. It's a 7735HS. That's an 8-core, 16-thread processor that can go to 4.75 gigahertz, which is insane for a mini PC because, the faster they go, the more power they use, the hotter they get. And these little mini PCs can be quite a challenge to keep cool. It's got 32 gigs of DDR5 and 1 terabyte of NVMe storage. So I want you to consider a lot of the mini PCs, the vast majority of them are going to have those numbers in half. Okay, a lot of them are going to be much more entry level, $200, $300 machines. And by the time you upgrade the RAM and the storage, normally you'd get 16 gigs of RAM. Normally you get a 512 gig SSD. That's pretty common, the most common. By the time you would spend money to upgrade all that, you're still stuck with whatever processor you have. The processors in these are laptop style, meaning that they are soldered down onto the circuit board. You cannot replace them. It's just like a laptop. It's laptop parts. It's laptop RAM. It's laptop Wi-Fi card, etc. Speaking of which, it's Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2. This has dual HDMI and RGB, if you can believe that, on this little tiny box, which you can turn off with the push of a button if you don't like it. At $499.99, you would be hard-pressed to build a tower computer or a mid-tower computer with a motherboard, that equivalent processor in desktop form, with a cooler, with RAM, with storage, with the OS, with the case, with the power supply, with the Wi-Fi card. Think about it. You're getting quite a lot for your money here. Now, some of these companies, like Peladn is one, we don't really know that name, most of us here in the United States. It's not very well known. And of course, the benefit to that is that they have to work harder to earn your money. And they can do that by reducing the price and offering you higher specifications than other better known competitors who can take advantage of their brand to charge more. Craig, let's see, we talked about Craig. Wait, this is a new one. Craig Casabona contributes $20. He says, thank you very much. I use an Intel 12400 2.5 processor. I always try to use 65-watt processors instead because of the heat. Yeah, so the 12400 comes with its own heatsink, and likely you would have been just fine, my experience, using it. I'm sure the Be Quiet Slim 2 is an improvement, but not a requirement. But to each their own, and I know it's not an expensive cooler, and it's probably a bit quieter and probably looks better, depending on how important those items are to you. But do know if you're buying one of those non-K, the processor from Intel that doesn't end in the letter K, it will include a heatsink that's adequate for cooling that chip. Some people feel that it's not good enough for very reasons, usually the looks of it or the sound it can make, although they're much better today than they used to be. But appreciate the info and the update, and certainly something worth considering if you have an Intel stock cooler. I can guarantee you the Pure Rock Slim is going to work much better than the stock cooler. Colin Hunt contributes £5. Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Craig, as always. Les Stevenson said tomorrow is called Remembrance Day in Canada. He says, I remember my great uncle cousin who served overseas in World War II. My dad served at home. Mom served in Toronto. Wow, that's awesome. You have a whole family of military there. Awesome. Hey, there's our friend Frankie B joining us in the chat. Always good to see Frankie. I hope you're doing well, my friend. All right, so let's get this unboxed. You know, I think I can go to the overhead camera. I don't know why I'm talking to the camera. You guys can't see me. As far as any other specs go, I guess before I switch over, it's a 45-watt high-performance mini PC, right? Like I said, Ryzen 7 7735, 32 gigs of RAM, Gen 4, 1 terabyte NVMe drive. We've obviously have 2 RAM sockets. The biggest looks like it can hold is 64 gigs, which would be 2 DDR5 modules, SO-DIMM modules at 32 gigs each, which I believe is as big as they make SO-DIMM DDR5. If that should change, maybe that memory limit will be raised when manufacturing provides something that's greater than that. I think these are limitations of what's available to purchase, the limit of that technology. Let's not forget or leave behind the Radeon 680M. It's a 12-core GPU running at 2200 megahertz. And this is great for 3D rendering, video playback, video editing. It supports 4K resolution on up to 3 displays, 2 through HDMI and 1 through USB Type-C 4.0. And it's on par, it says it's on par with MX450 and the GTX 1050 in performance. So for 1080 gaming, likely seems like that would be ideal. It is just 5.3 inches by 5 inches by 2 inches tall. Easy to take it, move it around if you want to, very portable. And if you think $500 is a lot of money for a mini PC, if you're accustomed to seeing just the cheap ones, I gotta show you something here that's gonna make you recenter your idea of value, and most likely, let's just jump to a new browser. I'm gonna type in, I just wanna show you this, because I'm not gonna get one of these. I am not going to pay for this new Simply Nook Moonstone. This is, and I'm just going to very quickly mention this, supposedly the fastest mini PC you can buy, designed, and I believe it's built in the USA. It's certainly designed in the USA. And it's really not that much faster than this unit here. But the price, it's staggering. Fully configured as after sales tax here in Arizona, that'll put you clear over 4 figures. A Ryzen 9 instead of a Ryzen 7. This video isn't about them. I only mention this for perspective that when you see this $500 price point and you consider exactly how much you're getting, I think it's very eye-opening to have that comparison, to be able to say, hey, you know what? This sounds even better now. But wait until you see it. I'm going to get the overhead camera out and hooked up here. Bear with me just one second as I move some things around here. Get a good view. And everything here is live, unscripted. It's all filmed in one take. So you get to see how things are done that normally get edited out of most YouTube videos. Let's see if I put that right about there. And we go to the close-up camera. That's it. There it is. Does that work? It works. Okay. So I put this back in the box the way it came out. The only thing that might be missing is a lot of times with these mini PCs, they'll wrap them in plastic. I've removed that plastic. But this is the unboxing experience replicated. First thing you're going to see when you open or lift the box is this little owner's manual here, which gives you quite a bit of information. You don't normally get that kind of an owner's manual with mini PCs. It's usually quite minimal. In the box, if I lift this out, this thing is heavy, and it did have protective cling plastic on all 6 sides. Isn't it 4 sides? No, it's 6. You've got the 4 sides plus the top and the bottom. And there was a plastic across here that is intended to come off. You need to take the plastic off. Besides, it looks a lot better with the plastic off. You'll see it's not showing any fingerprints. And we have some Go Faster stickers. On the front, there's our power button, our recessed reset button, our Type-C USB 4, 2 USB 3s, and a headset, microphone jack there, 3.5 millimeter. I am seeing a bubble. Did I not take this plastic off? See, this is what happens if you leave the plastic on. It'll start to bubble, it'll start to yellow, and your machine's going to look terrible. It's only there to protect it in shipping. And it's only in this light that I'm noticing that must have got by me. So there's got to be oh, I know what it is. When I pulled the plastic off, part of the plastic got stuck underneath that screw. Sure how well that's picking up, but essentially you want to remove all of that. It's going to look a lot better. It can also cause an overheating problem if you choose to leave it on. I remember my grandparents used to put plastic over the sofa furniture, which made the sofa very uncomfortable, loud, and cold. This was back in Michigan. Please tell me nobody's doing that today. Enjoy your sofa. Don't put plastic on it. All right. On the sides, we have air vents. Nothing on this side. And on the back, that's the front. On the back, a barrel DC in power connector, a USB 3 and a USB 2, Type A, 2.5 gig LAN, it even identifies it as such, an HDMI output, and this button right here that says light controls different options on the lighting as well as turning it off altogether. Also, remaining in the box, everything was wrapped in plastic. I took the plastic off of the power adapter. This is the power supply. Now, it does not contain the name Peladn on it. So if I were you, I'd get a label maker or a silver Sharpie and write Peladn on it. You don't want to mix these adapters up. Plugging the wrong adapter in could fry the adapter. It could also fry the device. So you don't want to mix those up. This is a 19 volt, 6.3 amp adapter, which is pretty standard. However, never assume just because this end fits that you have the right adapter. If these two items get separated, maybe in a move or, redecorating, you absolutely don't want to experiment with your power adapters to figure out which one it is, unless you're willing to toast whatever device it is, whether it's a mini PC, anything that takes a barrel connector. Make sure you're using the adapter that it came with. Now in here we've got a SATA cable, so clearly we can add a 2.5-inch drive internally to this if we want to. We've got an HDMI cable. We have our standard power cable, what we call a Mickey Mouse power cable, because it It looks like a silhouette of Mickey Mouse, doesn't it? Sometimes they're called cloverleaf. These screws are for this V-sub bracket, and the point of this is that we would attach it, say something like that. And then these screws could go on the back of a VESA compatible monitor, so the whole PC can hang back there. You could even screw it into the side of a desk if you wanted to, or against a wall just to get it off the desk. I wouldn't put this behind the monitor because it'd be hard to access any of the ports, right? You know, getting to the USB and etc. And that's pretty much what you're getting for your $500. But performance-wise, RAM and storage, you will likely have the fastest computer that you've ever had, if you're like most people, if you decide to purchase one of these. I wish I had a scale to weigh this. This has to weigh 3 to 4 pounds, I would guess. So let's get it hooked up here. Or wait, you know what? Let's open it up. I haven't opened it up yet, so let's do that before we turn it on. Just get an idea how this opens up, what's inside of it. You and I will experience this together for the first time. You notice how the rubber feet are moved away from the screws, so you don't have to remove the rubber feet. You have no idea how thrilled I am to see that. It's not rocket science. The folks over at Minis Forum like to cover the screws with the rubber feet. It drives me insane. It's a very easy thing to remedy, and I'm hoping if I complain enough about it to the folks at Minis Forum, or maybe if enough people complain about it, they will redesign, you know, make the screws more accessible. So thank you, Peladn, for that design. It's very much appreciated and considerate of anybody that wants to get into the machine. Now, what's interesting is they chose a single 32 gig. Oh, no, they didn't. This says it's 16 gig. This does not have 32. Hold on a minute. Am I wrong on this configuration? This had 32. No, this build is a 16 gig 512 SSD version. So we have the wrong link, Mara. There should be a cheaper version of this. This is not the $500 version as I thought it was. On the positive side, they're using name brand Crucial RAM here, and there's an extra socket available. So if you add another 16, just get another matching Crucial, get that same model number, and it's a very inexpensive upgrade to double your RAM. On the downside, because you only used one socket, instead of using both sockets, we're in single channel mode, which will impair our performance a little bit. Obviously, if we ran 2 8 gig modules, then they could both work simultaneously, thus improving our performance. So that's an interesting choice. You could see that as a positive, or you could see that as a negative. We have a big cooler right here, and underneath this cooler is going to be our NVMe drive. And I'm just taking a look at how that might come off. I see a couple of screws here. I see this frame. Oh, this frame looks like it just lifts off. Something's locking it in over here on this side. That's interesting. There we go. So we have a plastic. Everything is metal. I don't know why this is plastic. I don't even know why this is even required. I guess it just fills the gap between the... Yeah, it's just filling a gap here. So with that removed, it looks like we can take out the screw here. Here. And here. You are going to want a JIS, Japanese Industrial Standard screwdriver for the best fit, or a jeweler's screwdriver. Those are very small. So now we have another plate. And then we have this big cooler right here. That's an active cooler, which is likely being stuck on thermal tape to the NVMe drive. So as you can see, the thermal tape here is covering, well, this strip here is covering what appear to be maybe the VRMs here, I'm guessing. I'm not sure what those are, but usually VRMs get hot. There's our CMOS battery. There is our Peladn branded NVMe drive, which shows it was built in October of 2023, so just last month. I'd say that's fresh. And in the other area that the thermal tape is covering are all these little transistors right here, but they're not cooling the RAM. Usually when I see a bi-level heatsink like this, it's often over the RAM and the NVMe. So they've done this a little differently, but I'm sure they've done what they've needed to do. I also appreciate they've given us a little extension cord here, and that enables us to have a little more room to move this around without fully disconnecting it. I think that's a well thought out design. I appreciate that. As a system repairer and upgrader and builder, sometimes those short cables are the ones you accidentally break off. Not rocket science to put them back together, but it's also not rocket science to just give a little more slack. Now, my screwdriver will not fit into the M.2 screw here, so I am going to grab a jeweler's set of screwdrivers here. This is a set that comes from Harbor Freight Tools. And within this, we'll have, any of these Phillips drivers should do the trick. This is a number 0 Phillips. Let's see. Is that going to work? Perfect. And the reason I'm taking this out is to show you on many, many PCs, your Wi-Fi card is typically located under your NVMe drive. And as such, it is the same. So if we wanted to upgrade this to Wi-Fi 7, we take out that little M2 screw, pull off these antennas here. Very gingerly, they pop on and off like snap buttons on a shirt, but they're really very, very tiny. And they've got a piece of plastic that's glued on here that's protecting them from being disconnected. I am concerned that I just disconnected it by playing with it. Yeah, it has. I'm disconnected, so I'm gonna just temporarily remove this little piece of plastic, which is taking up the label. And you'll see just how tiny that is. You'll see very tiny writing. One says 1 and one says 2. You typically do have 2 antennas. And the antennas end at these little square stickers. They look like stickers, but they're actually the antennas right here up against the other side of this piece. You'll see where the wires are just soldered to the back. So now to push this little antenna wire back down, you need to have steady hands and good eyes because they're really super tiny. I'll use these little needle nose pliers here to assist. Once I hover it over the middle, got to be dead on or it won't snap down. Typically you'll feel or hear it snap in. Yeah, I just felt it and heard it. Then I can push that back down again. So it's all good. That doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but my OCD is saying, come on, Carey, you can do better than that. And I have to take it off entirely. Again, this piece could theoretically just throw that piece away. It's just there to make sure that those don't become unsnapped through bumping this little mini PC around. There is no secondary NVMe slot, so it looks like only one NVMe is all you can use. And with regards to installing a 2.5-inch drive, we have a little connector. I use the screwdriver. It's right here. That says SATA, S-A-T-A, or SATA. Data or data, either way you say it. And that's where that little ribbon cable in the box would plug in. And then the other end of that cable would plug into your 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive, HDD. And with the enclosed screws, apparently the screws are not only for that V-sub bracket, but you'll see there's a number of holes here, specifically these beveled holes in this plate. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would put your drive into position, what looks like in this orientation, not this way. You'd want your connector coming out on this side towards where the connector is on the motherboard, because you're not going to have very much room in that ribbon cable. Now, I personally think it's a terrible idea to put a 2.5-inch drive inside any mini PC because of how restricted the airflow is. It is designed to accept one, and you may choose to do that if you want to. If it were me, I would just use the USB ports and add my storage that way, or get a bigger NVMe drive, or a combination of both. The drive would mount upside down because we don't have enough room. If we put the drive up right side up, then we won't be able to get the bottom on. So the drive would mount under here. The connectors on this side use these 4 screws with the enclosed screws in the box. Real simple, anybody can do it. So the upgradability and access that they've given us here is great. There should be no reason you need to get to the other side of this. That's where your CPU heatsink is going to be, and there's nothing user accessible or repairable on the other side. So if you want to blow this out from time to time to get the dust out of it, just take canned air or the electric dusters like I use and blow through these vents this way and blow through these vents that way. Do that like once a year, you're good to go. You don't have to take it apart to clean it out. It probably won't even accumulate that much dust to begin with because you don't have a bunch of fans. Looks like there's only 2 fans in here. So as you add more fans, you potentially add more noise and you draw in more dust. When the dust settles on the components, it acts as an insulator. When you put a jacket on because it's cold outside, you're insulating yourself. That's what the dust will do. It'll act like a big jacket. And then the machine won't cool down as effectively. Fans may have to run faster and louder to keep the machine at normal temperatures under normal usage if you have enough collection of dust. So it's a good preventive maintenance measure to just, again, you don't have to open the machine up. You just blow through each side. Do it while the machine is off, and that's true of all mini PCs. Desktops, you'd want to preferably take them outside, take the panel off. I use an electric leaf blower. The electric dusters, they sell at Amazon. There's around $50, $60. I love these things. It's a lithium-ion battery. It's got a carbon fiber anti-static brush, so you can actually, well, I don't normally recommend making any contact with components. It's just not a good habit to get into. This is anti-static, and it's safe if you touch the components, as long as everything's off when you do it. And the battery on this is lithium-ion. It lasts for quite a while, charges through USB. And there's a number of these that are sold at Amazon that all look alike with different manufacturer names. I don't know if anyone's better than another, but if you don't have one, I think you'll love having one. They're very convenient. All right, so that appears to be everything we need to see. Again, this could be good news or bad news that they've only included one here. If you feel that 16 gigs isn't going to be enough for you, it's probably cheaper for you to order it with 32 than to try and upgrade it yourself. Also, when you order it that way, it's all warranted by them. If you don't want to, or you have trouble getting the exact same make and model to match this, then you're going to want to replace them both just to ensure that you're not going to have any incompatibility. Usually when RAM is sold to work together, it's sold in matching pairs that have been tested to work together. They don't just randomly grab 2 modules and put it in a box and call it a 2-pack. They have to be tested to function together. And that's why if one goes out and you have to warranty it, they need both of them back It's a full return, and then they send you a new fully tested kit back as part of the warranty. That's standard practice. So we can put our heatsink back on, and again, you can see all the little indentations here in this thermal tape, which represents all those transistors. You've got this long piece of thermal tape that's a little more recessed. That's going over what I think are voltage regulator modules here. I'm not quite sure, but these do get hot. And then we've got this long piece of thermal tape, which is just there to assist with our Gen 4 NVMe, which, you know, these Gen 4 drives can get warm. And it's nice that they have an active fan here. So this is active cooling, not passive cooling. So I'm not quite sure how we align this properly. I guess the plate is going to do all the work. Notice this curve right here, the curve of the fan. So you'll know, should be able to tell which way this goes on. I can't remember if I took it off. Yeah, I must have taken it off this way. So you would have the beveled holes facing you. And then if I set this in place, should be able to adjust the heatsink to align those holes and put these screws back in. Now I know I used the other driver for this, but this precision driver might make this job a little easier. I'll just get these started at first so I can move this around as needed to get it to align with these corners. But first, I want to make sure I get the heatsink secured to this bracket first and foremost. Then I can make some final adjustments. To align the bracket to the corners, because I'm just guesstimating where this heatsink needs to go. So the screws are there to make sure you get it aligned in the right place. Doesn't do you much good to have those thermal contact pads and then not be making contact with the device you're trying to cool underneath, because we can't see through it. Okay, now I should be able to tighten these down. So. And I should be able then to move this whole piece as I need to. Because once we put the screws in these holes, it's going to force this frame and the accompanying heatsink to align exactly where it needs to be. So we don't have to worry about if we've got it aligned properly. So again, easiest way that I recommend is to just simply adjust and start the screws. Don't tighten them all the way down, just get them started. If you start with the opposite corner, then by default, the other two holes should automatically be aligned. Because we're adjusting left, right, up, and down, and then there's also a twist or a yaw. And so these screws, when they're aligned with their mounting holes, are going to set us exactly where we need to be to ensure that this heatsink is aligned properly with the components underneath. And with that, this one should just automatically align. But by keeping all the screws loose, we can still shift and move this around a little bit, get the best alignment possible. Once we have that on, we just bring this down until it's snug. Don't over tighten. Snug is good. Yeah, so if you can imagine a 2.5-inch drive in here, it's going to cover up your RAM, and that's going to affect the thermals of the RAM, right? If we have a drive sitting essentially underneath this bracket, it'll be almost like just millimeters away from a top RAM module there. That would not be good for heat. I'm sure it'll work. It's definitely not ideal. All right, so this little Well, the little gasket, I guess, has to go in first before the screws, eh? In fact, since these are the last 4 screws, I have to put the bottom on. But I needed to put these screws in order to ensure that I can see that this is aligned properly. So now that it's aligned properly, you take these back out. My bad. Didn't need to tighten them all the way down like that. Another good reason for not tightening them all the way down is in case you have to take them right back out again because you forgot something. Okay, so we're going to put this piece back on, and it doesn't look like it matters if it goes on this way or this way. It should just seat right down in and fill that little gap. And then our bottom plate can go on. And it does help to remember if you put the bottom plate on, the way you take the bottom plate off, if it went off this way, it looks like these holes are cut out here for these 2 holes here, so the screws don't end up hitting any components. So I'm going to guess that's the way it's going to go back on. And then we can put the screws back in, knowing that our holes are already aligned. You can imagine how much more difficult this might be when we can't see through it to see if the holes are aligned after taking that heatsink off. So I'm very confident these are all going back together exactly the way it should for all those logical reasons. Now I am videotaping this, right? Or not videotape, but we haven't used videotape in 20 years. But I am recording this, filming this, and I would be able to play it back if I wanted to just verify everything that I'm making assumptions of. It's also a good idea why you might want to take pictures of things as you're taking it apart before you take it apart, just in case you get some confusion as to the orientation of any of the parts, the way they go back in, or even the order in which the parts go back in. Doesn't hurt, you know, you got a cell phone, you can take the pictures, it costs you nothing. So that's it. Let's grab the HDMI cable and plug it in. I can grab the network cable and plug it in because I've already set this up. I'm going to put away the tools because we're done exploring that. So let's get this put away and this put away. Move this box out of the way. And let's go back to, yes, we're grab the keyboard and mouse and go back to camera 1. So here's my keyboard and my mouse here. My little wireless dongle for the keyboard and mouse. Plug that into any USB Type A slot. So I'll turn to the front. And I'm going to turn this on. Oh, I have to give it power, don't I? Let's give it power, Carey. So power connector. Then I'll use my own Mickey Mouse power plug I've got here, since they're all the same. I don't have to use the one that came with. Now when I turn this on, check this out. On the back, where it's got this button, it says light. If I push that, see the light goes off. I push it again. The light is a very light blue, very soft. Push it again, it's a brighter blue. Push it again, it's breathing as the light fades out and fades in. A static color, it appears to be orange. Press it again. Now it's just a solid orange. Press it again. And now it's going to go through that same breathing pattern for the next color. And then we're back to the default rainbow cycling. So let me get my studio lights back on. And let's switch over now to camera 1. Here I am. And let me get this out of the way. I think we're done with that for right now. And don't worry about missing the boot up. I'm going to restart it so you can get an idea of the boot up time. As you can imagine, it's impressive. Let's get this arm out of the way. Come on. So let's go to our HDMI input. It says unsupported signal. It may not have detected the video that cable that we plugged in because we didn't have the port active. That's my guess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the power button here. It should cycle off. In fact, let me bring back camera one for a moment. And I'm going to put myself in the corner so you can watch both. Put myself right up there. Yes. Okay, and now you definitely get to see the boot time. So, power button. It's quiet. Hopefully we're going to get a power on self-test screen, a post screen. Unsupported signal. So it's telling me it's getting a signal. I may not have this plugged in all the way. There it is. Okay, so we're at the desktop. Let me shut it down and start it again. This is the user account I've created for Windows 11. We'll check if it's Home or Pro here in a moment. Once again, I'm going to shut it down. Get an idea for how fast this shuts down this way. The lights are going off. There, it's off. So now I'm going to hit the power button again. This time we should get a more accurate representation of boot time. Now that I have all the cables plugged in all the way, you can see the post screen. It's pretty quick. All right, so I'm going to go now full screen on my side of things here so I can see it the way you guys at home see it. And we'll go ahead and hit continue on this just to get it. Skip. Back. Skip for now. That's all that required. If I right click on the start menu, go to system. Then we can verify our specifications of the AMD Ryzen 7 7735HS. 16 gigs. DDR5, right? I believe that was DDR5. We'll double check that. And we are running Windows 11 Pro, and I have updated it to 23H2. It did not ship with 23H2 because that really wouldn't be possible unless they overnighted. Any computer you buy throughout the rest of this year is probably going to have 22H2 on it. It's no big deal to just go to Windows Update. If we look at the device manager, we can see who's making the Wi-Fi and the LAN adapter. People wanting to use Linux or other operating systems may not have drivers for certain adapters. So this may be an important thing to know. It looks like it's an Intel AX200 Wi-Fi adapter and a Realtek LAN 2.5 gig LAN adapter. So pretty much both are industry standard. Interesting, they didn't go full Intel or full Realtek. They went one manufacturer for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and the other manufacturer for the wired LAN. And of course, we do have a TPM module. It's going to be under security devices that make sure that we are Windows 11 compliant. There are some shady manufacturers out there that will bypass the Windows 11 security settings and force Windows 11 on a non-compatible machine. Peladn does not do that. It is a legitimate, well-built machine. You can tell the people who designed this didn't go cheap on it. Everything is, it's all metal. This whole case is metal. That's why I was surprised with that plastic piece in it. It's like a gasket. But it's mostly metal. Okay, so with that, let me go over to the chat room and see what I've been missing. And if you have any questions, I might have missed any earlier questions. Please repost your question in the chat room. I'll do my best to provide an answer for you. Let's take a look. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Far back I need to. Oh, I guess quite a ways. Okay, so I think we left off with the 5-pound contribution from Colin Hunt and BLD0550 with a $5 super chat. Thank you, BLD0550. Happy Friday, he says. Well, happy Friday to you, my friend. Michael Dane Jr. says 45 days until Christmas. Oh, thanks for the reminder. That also means it's only 52 days then to the end of the year. I'll look forward to seeing 2024. Randy Roblowski says, thank you. I enjoyed my time in the Air Force. Right on. Yeah, my father was in the Air Force, stationed in France during the Vietnam War. Let's see. Dan Nilsson and Mats Olav are speaking Swedish. We have viewers from all over the world watching us live right now. And it's pretty darn cool if you ask me. David Herzog pops in the chat, says hello. Mortant 1210 joining us here in the chat. Nick Caffrey with a 15 euro contribution says, hi, Carey and Marlena. And chat, this looks like an impressive little machine. Imagine my surprise. I'm very impressed with the build quality of this. It's one of the best ones I've seen in build quality. And I think for the value for the money, it ranks up there when you consider just exactly what you're getting. And again, I think I would have preferred the 32 gig version with 1 terabyte. Not quite sure what the price difference is. I don't know if Mara has corrected that. In fact, I can go back to Amazon and take a quick look. It's probably worth it to let them sell it to you that way than for you to upgrade it yourself, because it keeps everything under warranty and it reduces any odds of it, accidentally damaging any or installing any incompatible parts. Unless, of course, you want the fastest RAM you can buy and the fastest storage you can buy, in which case you're going to have to do that on your own. Paul O'Brien says, I'm back from the cold. The dogs are happy with his walk. I wouldn't mind walking around Ireland. It sounds lovely. Marlena DG says, okay, the link has been adjusted in the show notes. Amazon has the 32 gigabyte and 1 terabyte. Newegg is offering this version that we have. What is, oh, and there's an official Peladn link that she's added in the video notes if you guys want to click on that and see those details. What was the price on Newegg's asking on the 16, on the version we have? Because we know it's $499.99. It's $500 at Amazon for the version that has twice the storage and twice the RAM. Ben Laird said, heat still concerns me with these small machines. Yes, heat is an obsession that a lot of people on the internet have that are computer enthusiasts. It is very rarely ever an actual problem, though. Certainly not in line with the number of people who have anxiety and concern over it. It's unjustifiable. When and if you ever have a problem, then it would be time to discuss it. But expecting one is unreasonable, in my opinion. Justification for that. The engineers have engineered this machine specifically to be in that case with those components. And the airflow is set up to be the best they could possibly make it. And if it wasn't good enough, they wouldn't sell it. Now, there are some unscrupulous sellers out there that perhaps just slap something together, take everybody else's spare parts. And you'll usually tell by the price. I don't anticipate you would ever have any heat-related problems with this, and I wouldn't expect any. Frankie B with $4.99 in Super Chat contribution says, hey, that looks like a great mini PC. I'm impressed. I was not expecting when Peladn asked us. Peladn sent it in exchange for a review. They're not paying me for the review. I'm not under any obligation to say anything or to not say anything. And both Mara and I were impressed, first of all, by the weight of the box. When it arrived, we thought, what's in this heavy box? It can't be a mini PC. It's got to be something else. Imagine our surprise when we saw that it was a mini PC. We're like, well, how big is it? You know, come to find out, it's really not much bigger than the standard 4-inch by 4-inch. This is like 5-inch by 5-inch. And I've heard the fan kind of kick on a little bit, and then it gets quiet. Right now, it's really quiet. But when the fan does ramp up, you can hear it, but it's not overly loud, or I don't have to talk louder or anything. You definitely know it's on by seeing the LEDs if you don't hear it. Right now, it is absolutely dead silent. Chris Johnson renews membership, now a member for 18 months, another 18-monther. Thank you, Chris. He says, it's great to be with you. Well, I feel the same way. Great to be with you too. Thanks for being a supporting member of the channel. Yeah, I got a problem with my oven. It's running hot. I gotta put a cooler on my oven. So Mara says this version sold at Newegg is $4.99. So you have a much better deal at $4.99. Because that doesn't sound right. For the same price at Amazon, you can get 32 gigs and 1 terabyte for what Newegg is selling 16 gigs and 512 gigs of storage. That doesn't make much sense. Obviously, if it's the same price, buy it from Amazon. You also have a 30-day return window with Amazon. The returns are completely free. They don't cost you anything. So if you don't like the machine for any reason, in other words, if you're saying, hey, I'm worried about heat, regardless of what you say, Carey, okay, well then buy it. And if you have a heat problem, as you fear, and you turn out to be right, you'll know within 30 days. Put it back in the box, send it back to Amazon, you get a full refund. Heck, Amazon doesn't care why you're returning it, quite frankly. You could just change your mind. Just wake up one day and have buyer's remorse. I want to send it back. Amazon will take it back. Mara says, Peladn mentioned they just recently got some of the units into the US warehouses like Amazon and Newegg. So this is a brand new model. We the first channel to review it. Barry Klein joined us. Hey, Barry, good to see you, friend. Orlando B says hello, as does Captain Blinsky and Gary Tatum. Glenn's Music. AJ Haverkamp. Alhaj Depej. Mats Olaf saying hello. Steve Mercure says mini RGB. Cool. Yeah. See, I can hear the fan right now. And it sounds like I'd say it's at a level like a room, like an air filter in a room. It's very subtle. You definitely know where it's coming from. And it doesn't run that way 24/7. Just when the unit gets hot enough, the fans have to kick up a bit and move that airflow around. And we probably can feel, oh yeah, there's quite a bit of air coming out the side here. That's impressive amount of airflow, the pressure with which that air is coming out. Surprisingly powerful. So I can feel it from about a foot away. I can still feel the air hitting my hand. So this side is obviously sucking the air in, so the airflow is moving through the machine from one side to the other. Avery Ramstorth with $1.50 in super chat. Thank you, Avery. Bikeman in the chat wants to know, has anyone ever seen this error when you try to access a network share from Windows 10 Home to Windows 11 Pro? It says the referenced account is locked out. Ooh, sound good. Definitely want to check your permissions. It sounds like a permissions issue. Ben Laird wants to know, if you put Linux on it, would it invalidate the warranty? No, if you have a hardware issue, if there's a problem in workmanship, how do they phrase that? Or materials, it's covered by warranty. The operating system is irrelevant. The operating system can't break the hardware. However, if you open it and you cause damage to it or spill something on it or drop it, obviously that's not a defect in manufacturing or workmanship. But the operating system doesn't matter. I don't think legally here in the United States a manufacturer can enforce that rule. I was speaking with somebody that does repairs, and they said they put a repair sticker on whatever they repair, and if you break that sticker, your warranty is void. That's not legally enforceable. They might have that as their own personal policy, but it actually is, it won't stand up in court. It's non-enforceable. So if they said, you broke our sticker, so we're not going to warranty you, you could sue them if you wanted to here in the US. And I can guarantee you, you're going to lose that lawsuit. Simply breaking, if there is a sticker, it's not enforceable. Google it. You can read about the law Congress passed in that. So no, changing the operating system has no impact with regards to hardware. Your operating system isn't something that's guaranteed anyway, right? If you have a problem with your operating system, they'll likely refer you to the OS manufacturer. So if we had a problem in Windows 11, they're not likely going to support that. They're going to probably point you to Microsoft. I'm not exactly sure. But again, I do sense a lot of anxiety coming from you, whether it's concern about heat or it's concern about warranty loss, but without any actual it's not justifiable. In other words, you're not having a problem. You're anticipating problems. And it's like you're asking for a crystal ball should all of these things happen. If something happens, it's likely going to be something you didn't expect. And likely nothing's going to happen. In most cases, whatever operating system you want to put on it, if you don't fidget around with the internals of the machine, you let it run the way it's supposed to, I'm sure you're not going to have any heat-related problems either. But if you do at that point, that's something we can help you with. What I can't help you with is your anxiety, right? So you can just imagine all different kinds of problems you could have. But if you're not having them, then the problem you have is you. You're in your own way. So do know that if you make the purchase through Amazon, you have that 30 days where you can return the unit. If you have altered the unit, you need to put it back the way it was to return it to the way it was sold to you. So if, for example, you put Linux on it and it came with Windows 11, you need to put Windows 11 back on it when you return it. It's possible, although Amazon's pretty lenient in this regard, they want everything back that they sold you. Otherwise, you're a thief. If you don't return the documentation or the power supply or the cables or the bracket, you're basically shoplifting. And in a lot of cases, Amazon will take it back, even if it is missing some things. They shouldn't. They're not obligated to. But if you want to guarantee they're going to take it back, make sure you send back exactly what you bought. And if it came with Windows 11, you put Windows 11 back on it. If you take an image of the machine, something like a Cronus, then you can simply restore the image. You don't have to worry about all the time it would take to do a reinstall with drivers and all the other nonsense. So, but do know when you go down that path of, wanting to take it over yourself, then you take on all the problems yourself too. So, if you're not willing to accept responsibility for the trouble you might cause yourself, you're going to expect other people to bail you out, you probably should just build your own computer, or you should have somebody else build it for you, where you can contact them if you have that sort of anxiety, right? And you will pay extra for that type of service, by the way. You know, that kind of concierge service you should expect to pay for. It's not going to be the cheapest option. And obviously, the more you pay, probably the better service you're going to get. But if you are going to go in your own direction and you get lost, that's what happens when you go your own direction. You've got to be willing to accept that risk, or don't take that risk. Mats Olof contributes 100 Swedish kroner. He says, sorry, Carey, but I found a chat friend on your channel. I think that's awesome. I see that. Thank you for the contribution. Mats Olof has been very generous here and a great member of our community. AJ Haverkamp said these warranty void if removed stickers are also not legitimate in Europe either. So that, yeah, manufacturers can put them on. There's nothing illegal about putting on a sticker. But whether or not it's enforceable by law, company policy is not law. Company policy is something a company could fire you over if you worked for them and you weren't following their policy. But a company policy and whatever your local laws are, the laws are what takes priority. And so if you don't know any better and you don't question it, you might believe what the manufacturers tell you. In some cases, some manufacturer policies are backed up by law. In other cases, they're not. And part of that has to do with what the policy is and what part of the world you live in and what the local laws are there. This might be a really good little gaming machine. And of course, anything good for gaming would be good for video editing or most desktop work. So this is a brand new model. It looks like it just arrived in the US just last week. I mean, we are getting this fresh. And we're getting an early peek. And thanks to Peladn for giving us this opportunity to show you this exclusive content. Let me grab my utilities flash drive and let's see what kind of performance we're going to get out of this NVMe drive. I'm going to guess probably around 5,000 on a Gen 4. Gen 4 will go to 7,400, but you also generate a lot more heat that way. And as we mentioned, when you have a smaller computer, you know, when you have a smaller case, you don't have as good of airflow. I was very impressed with the mini PC from Minis Forum we just reviewed that, you know, we ran Prime 95 on it for 20 minutes and I don't even think it broke 80 degrees Celsius. I'm very impressed. How the Peladn performs, I guess we can see. Let me grab, let's see, oops. Grab Carey's Windows 2, which does work fine on Windows 11. And let me grab or install. Let's just install VLC on. Okay. Install. Go to my PC testing software folder. CPU-Z. Crystal Smart Portable. W. Hardware info for monitoring temps. And Prime 5. That's the whole testing suite that I use. I don't expect these mini PCs to survive 20 minutes of Prime 95. And I'm very impressed when they do because I don't expect it. And anytime you're running AMD, you want to make sure you're running the latest up-to-date Adrenaline software, which I did update. That's very important for the best security and performance. Yellow exclamation point here. What does this want? Browser control turn on. And device security, I'm just going to dismiss that. For now, in this November 2023, it's not important to have that on. I'm going to go ahead and run Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer, let it make my optimization tweaks and reboot. And then we'll run Crystal Dismark and we can try Prime 95 to see if we do have any heat issues on it. I would say most mini PCs are not designed for 100% resource load for 20 minutes. That's ridiculous, over the top, and unrealistic actual use. It's a simulation that is far from reality. So I know if I run Prime 95 on a computer for 20 minutes, it's such an unrealistic torture test that anything my customer is going to do to it will never cause it to overheat. And that's why I run it. I want to make sure that I know what to expect from the machine. Cheaper machines and smaller machines are going to have some limitations. When we get at this level, we're kind of at the middle here. It's quite possible this will run just fine. It's quite possible this will overheat. We're going to find out here in a minute. Based on the amount of airflow I'm feeling coming out of it, I'm impressed with how much airflow it's got for its small size. But we do have a fairly high-end processor in here, which can generate quite a bit of heat when, you're running it full bore, metal to the metal. So let's find out what the reality is. And we'll start with Crystal Dismark. Dismark 64. And we'll just run the entire series of tests here. See what kind of numbers we get. Again, I'm expecting about 5,000 here. This is a Peladn branded NVMe, so I don't know who actually makes it. Holy cow. Holy cow. Wow. Can't really go much faster on Gen 4 than that. I was not expecting that. Color me impressed. Granted, it's only 512 gig, but usually the larger the NVMe drive, the faster it goes if everything else is the same except capacity. So if the 1 terabyte's made by the same manufacturer, I expect that number would be even a little bit higher. Now, that's impressive. Wow, I was not expecting that. BLD0550 with a $5 super chat says, I've been using an ASRock Desk Mini, which has got an AMD Ryzen 5600G with a Noctua cooler as my main CAD computer, 14 hours a day, never had any heat issues. That's awesome. Good to know. Not a lot of people run CAD, compared to other applications, and CAD can be, depending on how it's used, quite resource intensive on a PC. Don't mind me as I step off out of the camera frame here to get a cold Gatorade here while we're waiting for Crystal Dismark to run. We want to have an accurate test. We don't want to do anything else with the computer that could interfere or impede the test results. So we leave it be in order to get the most accurate test results possible. If I start multitasking and doing other things, that I can't believe the test results are accurate. And then I have to start over again. Thank you for the contribution and the information, BLD050. Marlena thinks she should try World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft's nothing. You can run World of Warcraft on a 10-year-old computer easily. But that'd be much of a test, quite honestly. Our write speed is also impressive. We're over 4,000. And I was expecting about 4,000 on the write speed. So we're nearly at 4,500. So color me impressed as far as the storage goes. Starshine pops in our chat, says hello, welcome in. PSC Computers Missouri contributes $10 in Super Chat. Thank you for that, PSC Computers Missouri. PSC Computers says, good afternoon, Carey. We have always liked the mini form factor computers and use them quite a bit in our deployments. This Peladn looks and seems outstanding, and I appreciate the content as always. Well, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. It's quite heavy. It's you'd be surprised when you pick that up how much it weighs, especially if you're accustomed to handling a lot of mini PCs. That's one of the heaviest, and I see that as a good thing. I don't think this has a Kensington lock on it, though, does it? Not that many customers I know use them, but it's nice if you're worried about it being stolen that you can lock it down like in a workplace environment. And this one doesn't appear to have that option. So I guess if I'm really struggling to find something to complain about, the little Kensington lock port doesn't exist. I don't use them anyway, but I like always having the option. So I believe these are our final numbers here. I think this test is, oh no, it's still running because it says stop on the left side. On that left side of the screen, next to the numbers, it'll show what each test is when it's finished. So as long as it says stop, it means the test is still running. And at the very top of the window, it tells you the status. So now that it's no longer says stop there, those are our final number results right there, which is fantastic. So now, with regards to Prime 95, once again, don't expect many PCs to pass 20 minutes of Prime 95 for all the reasons I've already mentioned. So when they do, I'm always impressed because it doesn't seem like that's an easy task to accomplish. Let me go ahead and pull my flash drive out of here. And let's go to, let's see, what HWI hardware info. Start that first. 64-bit version. Sensor zone. That. And you'll see a clock starts running down here. So we'll pay attention to where the clock is when we start Prime 95 to get an idea how many minutes it's running. And as we look through this list, we're going to look for, here we go, our CPU temps. So we're in the mid 40s, which is normal. That's the expected range under, you know, an idling desktop scenario. And, oh, I'm going to bring up Prime 95. I use Prime 95 version 26.6, and I stick with all the default values. If I keep changing the version of Prime 95, then I can't compare test results accurately back in time, right, to other machines. So I leave all these defaults. I just simply hit OK. It's going to start pushing this machine both on all 16 threads and on all the RAM. And you're going to see these temps immediately start to climb, and we started right at about 1 minute. So we'll let this go to 21 minutes down here on this clock at the bottom. It's over a little. And we want to watch our maximum. So this is the maximum temperature the CPU has reached, or the cores have reached, since we started this test, or the software. Over here, what's highlighted in blue is our current temps. These are the lowest temps recorded since I started this piece of software. We are climbing quite rapidly, but the fan doesn't really sound full bore yet. I like for the machine to stay, in this case, under 90. Now, if it hits 100, it's going to throttle itself. It become unstable, and it may actually shut itself down to protect it from causing damage from heat. It's got protection circuits in modern CPUs now, thermal protection circuits. They call that a thermal junction. And what they'll do before they shut down is they'll start powering down cores to preserve, keeping the machine on, preserve the stability of the machine. If the temperature keeps climbing despite that, then it will shut itself off to prevent it from self-destructing, essentially. You got to appreciate this because back in the day, computers didn't have that level of technology, and you could overheat them to the point of self-destruction, and never even know it was overheating back in the day. So heat isn't the thing to really fear like it used to be, because the most inconvenience it's going to cause you is it's going to shut down unexpectedly. But back in the day, it could cause you to have to go buy a new computer. So given a choice between the two, the anxiety about potential heat problems doesn't have the severe consequences it used to. You still don't want to have heat problems, but at least you're not having to buy a new computer and it might irritate you that the computer shuts off if it overheats. But if it didn't, it would probably irritate you more when you saw smoke coming out. You had to grab a fire extinguisher, and it'd be pretty obvious it was unrepairable and would have to be completely replaced. Certainly, there have been insurance claims for fires that have been started from overheating. Neglected computers, computers sitting in a garage. Garage has combustible, flammable materials like paint, cleansers, cleaners. Computer gets hot, and you have something combustible near it. I've been asked at a couple of court cases to present information, sometimes on behalf of the insurance company, sometimes against the insurance company who's denying the claim. Those problems should be behind us now with a computer. So we're 3 minutes into the test. Temps are still looking okay. If we want to scroll through this a little bit just to see what some of the other numbers are, go to the top here. And we can take a look at the frequency and that's being measured. You can freeze frame the screen if you want to read any of these little details with wattage and other things it's measuring. So I'm keeping my eye on this area here, and in particular on this column. See what our maximum is. This number here looks like the biggest number we've seen so far. Typically, you may have one core on the processor that runs hotter than the other cores. That's normal. So we definitely want to keep an eye on it. So we are about 5 minutes into the test now. And I got to walk a little closer to the screen. 83.5 Celsius. We're still well below 100 and still good clearance away from 90. But we're only a quarter of the way through the test. So we'll see how it progresses. And while it's doing that, let me take a look here at the chat room. If you enjoy the content, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions are free. And if you'd like access to exclusive content and you'd like to support what we're doing and help encourage us to get more variety and more content more often, please consider becoming a member of the channel if you're not already. And that way we can avoid having to be corporate spokespersons, reading scripts written by marketing companies to review the product they send us and tell us what to say about it and then pay us really well for that. There's good money in that. And I don't want to make my money that way. I want to tell you how I honestly feel based on my values and whether or not it's something I would use myself or sell to one of my clients and then, be responsible for supporting the entire life of the product. So because I work as a professional tech in the industry, I don't want to muddy the water. I don't want to say and do one thing on camera and then say and do something completely different in my technical business. I'm going to keep it consistent with the business values being applied to the YouTube channel, not the other way around, and not having two different rules or having two different faces. It's too much work, quite honestly. And I'd rather be honest with you. If I like something or I dislike something, you don't have to agree. But it's coming from a position of somebody in business who will take responsibility for the product being sold to somebody else, who sees it as a reflection of me, right? They bought it from Carey. So if it's not good, if it's got problems, then they think that's a reflection on me. They might be hesitant to want to do any more business with me if they're not happy with the transaction. I want my customers to come back time and time again. I want my customers to refer me. So I want to make sure I sell good quality stuff, but I can't be so overpriced, and I'm only going to have rich people as clients, and there's not enough of them, quite frankly. And I can't be so inexpensive to beat all the competitors that at the end of the month, it's costing me money to be in business. That's not sustainable. So that's the tightrope I walk every day doing what I do. And as really the only employee, I have to do everything from the billing to the actual work, to the sales, and to the evaluating whether or not I want to put my name behind something and promote it, as well as, doing the work. It's a lot, but it keeps me out of jail because what do they say? Idle hands are the devil's playthings. And I love what I do. And I also love when customers are thrilled with their computer. When a customer has had a really bad computer experience from another manufacturer and they get a machine from me that's quiet, reliable, and sexy, and it didn't really cost them any more, and they get that personal service when they call for help. They're not talking to some random stranger outsourced to answer the phone. They're talking to the person who built the system. I think that also adds value for some peace of mind. They can talk to the person who built it. Okay, we're about 9 minutes into this, and our hottest temp so far is 85.3. Okay, well, like I said, I will allow this to go to 90 because of its nature. Normally, I don't want a desktop to get any hotter than 85. But the fact that this is running as well as it is impressive. So we're just over 10 minutes, or 50% of the way through this test. So as we wait for this test to complete, if you have any questions or whether it's related to the Peladn mini PC or anything computer related, in particular a problem that you're struggling with, be sure and ask during these live videos, and you can get help right from our live chat room, as well as from me. Very knowledgeable and helpful individuals in our community. Strongly recommend you take advantage of that. Michael Dane Jr. said, a joke from my dad says, why do programmers never run the AC? They prefer to open windows. Ouch. What was the one I heard today? It'll come to me. And you'll wish it hadn't. Darn it, my mind just blanked out. It'll come to me. Let me check my phone while we're waiting and see if I've missed any messages here. $10 comes from Dan Nilsson via PayPal. Thank you, Dan. $25 from our good friend Luke Greenia, watches us all the way from Vermont. Frankie B sends a $100 Amazon gift card. He says, use this card to get more stuff for more content. Enjoy. Well, again, thank you so much, Frankie, and I will absolutely do that. Avery Ramstorff sends a $10 Amazon gift card. Right on. Thank you, Avery. That catches me up. I'm going to cheat a little bit and look for the dad joke.
She was like,
what do you say when your favorite
smoke shop
turns into a what do you say when your favorite smoke shop turns into a J. Crew? That's a clothing store. You say clothes, but no cigar. It's pretty bad. There's a YouTube channel. Well, it's a TikTok channel that they've basically copied their content over to YouTube called Doc Talk. Those guys also have a book of all their dad jokes available at Amazon if you just look up Doc, D-O-C-K, Talk, T-O-K. If you enjoy those painful jokes. Alhez wants me to try the SanDisk Extreme Pro external SSD I have that can go up to 2,000 megabytes per second if you have a supported USB 3.2 Gen 2, 2x2. It's a long, there's so many different versions of USB, it gets so confusing. Yeah, we can absolutely try that. How are we doing on our test here? I've not been looking up. Says 15 minutes and maximum 86.2. We're still sailing through. When that reaches 21 minutes, then we will be on 20 minutes of full bore pedal to the metal torture test. Looks like we're going to make it. It's impressive. I'll grab that SanDisk while we're waiting. I'm wondering if I have to use the USB-C port on here. Well, I've got the USB-C cable on it, so I guess that answers that question. They include two cables, one with a Type A end, USB Type A, and one with a USB Type C. It comes included with the device when you buy it. This is a SanDisk Extreme Pro 4 terabyte external SSD. Frank Jimmy says he saves all of his dad jokes in a database. Dad-a-base. Dan Nilsson said singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth, and then it's a soap opera. But getting a little hotter. I can certainly hear the fan running right now, but again, it sounds like a fan running. It's not overly loud. I don't have to talk over it, but you definitely know it's there. Mark Gaines says, what's the biggest lie in the world? It would be, I have read and agree to the terms and conditions. Alhej says, what did the fish say when he swam into a wall? Damn. Ba-dum-bum. Ralph Kirby wants to know if I still recommend MCSoft. Well, the antivirus that Windows includes for free is more than adequate for most people. If you want something above and beyond that, any of the antiviruses on the market right now, the big ones, like MCSoft and like I avoid Norton and McAfee, but otherwise any of the other big ones, when you're paying for them, they're all pretty good these days. We're not really seeing a whole lot of virus infections like we used to. Hackers are getting into computers other ways that your antivirus can't stop. That's why it's important you get all your Windows updates. And it's also important that you make smarter decisions, responsible decisions behind the keyboard. You can buy the safest car, but it's not going to guarantee that you won't get in a car accident or that you might be seriously injured or killed in that car accident. You still have to be a responsible driver and make responsible decisions behind the wheel. There's nothing wrong with MCSoft. I don't use it myself, and I haven't used it in quite some time, simply because Microsoft's built-in antivirus has gotten so good. I will use a paid version of Malwarebytes just to work with Microsoft's antivirus as a secondary. But the free version of Malwarebytes doesn't help you prevent any infections. The free version is only there to help you clean up infections after they. So if you're going to use a third-party antivirus, strongly encourage you to pay for it if you really want any sincere protection. You're not getting much protection for free. And you also have nobody to blame if it's free. Okay, we're getting close here to the end of the test. Oh, 89.4 degrees. It's going to be close. I used to just run this test for 15 minutes, but cooling has gotten so good on PCs, I've extended the additional 5 minutes because I've noticed on a lot of PCs that Prime 95 runs on that the temperature will go up between 15 and 20 minutes. It used to be, it seemed to me that the temperature kind of leveled off. It would reach a peak and it wouldn't get any hotter than that. So I was like, well, why run it anymore? But then if you let it run long enough, it does eventually start to run some other robust testing on it that can generate a little bit more heat. And so that's why I now run it for the full 20 minutes. So we are very close. We're 10 seconds away to our 20-minute marker here. And 89.4 looks like our maximum. 2, 1, 0. There we are. We have now crossed over the 21-minute mark. And we started this test about 1 minute after I started this measuring software. So that passes. It absolutely passes. And it passes with flying colors. We still have a 10-degree ceiling above us. So this can still safely run 10 degrees hotter. It's an unrealistic test. Nobody's going to push their computer that hard for that long without giving it a break or a breather. Very unlikely. You'd be one hell of a user. And I'd love to watch you work to see what you're doing to cause a machine to work that hard for that consistent time. So that passes. Let me go ahead and shut down Prime 95 here. go to test, stop all workers. Then you'll see those temperatures here on the current side are going to drop quickly. And the fan just instantly quieted down. You don't even hear it anymore. So that's how fast CPU can heat up and how fast it can. Now, with regards to our SanDisk, we only have the one USB-C port here on the front. So let me plug this in here. Now, I typically get 1,000 megabytes per second out of this bad boy on most computers. But if we have, you know, the wide bandwidth USB, which most computers don't have, then we'll see 2,000 megabytes per second out of this little bad boy. So let me close this and close this. We're done with all of that. Let's bring up Crystal Disk Mark and back over to Disk Mark 64. Back to D drive in this case. Just want to run the two sequential tests, the write test and the read test. If we don't see 2,000 on the read, we're obviously not going to see it on the write. So we're going to find out here very quickly. Yeah, we're at 1,000. So probably less than 5% of the computers I'm testing are going to hit 2,000. It's not typically what's included with the computer. And most people aren't going to use it or have anything that requires it anyway. But as we move forward into the future, it will become more common both in devices and on the computers. So it's typical. I mean, it absolutely would have floored me if it did 2,000, because that means it would have been only the third computer I've seen so far that has that USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. This is expected. Like, this is normal USB speed. It's not the excessive speed that I'm always on the hunt for. And I would use it. You know, if I had it, I would definitely use it. But 1,000's nothing to shake a stick at. But you can buy a cheaper drive. SanDisk makes a 4 terabyte version that costs less than this, that runs at 1,000. This one costs more because it runs at 2,000, but it doesn't do you any good if you don't have any machines that can perform at that speed. But I'm kind of future proofing because I know as time marches on, that'll become normal. But it's still kind of a fancy feature right now that's relatively exclusive to higher end machines. And even then, it's got to be sort of the best of the high end machines. Just because it's a high end machine, don't assume it's going to have the USB 3.2 that's 2x2. Okay, so there's lots of different versions of USB 3.2, and it confuses people, as it should. Then there's USB 4, and such the confusion will go on with Thunderbolt, etc. So I just look at the numbers. I don't have to worry about what all the nomenclature is. I see the reality of what it's doing, and I know how to categorize it. So that would be what I call typical. It's not a disappointment, and it's not a surprise. Close that out. Eject SanDisk drive. The Extreme Pro is what it's called. And they make this in various capacities. The largest capacity that is also the fastest is called the Pro version, and the largest capacity is 4 terabyte. They have Pro version in 2 terabyte, 1 terabyte, maybe even 512. And of course, priced accordingly. I always buy these from Amazon. I was able to actually get this one used. Somebody returned it, and they used it quite a bit. I can see how many power cycles. It's had like 1,160 power cycles. It's had, a good third of its life written away. But it'll take me, I don't know how long, but it will likely never reach the write cycle limit on this, no matter how much I use it. So I'm not worried about however much wear and tear it had, because it's solid state, and it was $100 cheaper. So if I lost a third of its life and I paid a third of the cost for it, or I got a third off discount, I'm okay with that, since I'm never going to hit that write cycle limit anyway. It's got way more write cycles than I'll ever use even when a third of it's already been used. So yeah, I will likely replace it because something else will come out that's faster, larger, smaller in size, but larger in capacity, faster in data transfer. And that will happen long, long before you get even close to wearing that out. In fact, I've never seen a worn out SSD or flash drive. I have flash drives from 20 years ago, never worn them out. So again, a lot of theoretical anxiety online with that nonsense, but the reality is never met anybody who suffered that kind of a failure before. Not saying those people don't exist. I'm not saying it never happens. It's very, very rare. So nothing that keeps me up at night. Nothing I give a second thought to. All right, any final questions? I think that'll about wrap it up for today's video. We're right at about the 2-hour mark, which is perfect timing. Why is my keyboard now? Close this out. There it is. Okay, and then I can go full screen here, back to camera 1. And go over to the chat room. All good news. Passes Prime 95. The solid state drive performance is the best we've seen out of any mini PC stock from the manufacturer. Normally, to get those kind of speeds, I have to replace the drive. So that was unexpected. The RGB is kind of unexpected, and it's subtle enough. It's not necessarily in your face, and you can very easily shut it off with the press of a button. It's not like you got to run any software. Basis. Mara wants me to turn off the lights again and show off the mild RGB. Okay, well, let's go ahead and I'll cut off even more lights here. And we can bring the overhead camera out. Power that back on. Let's go over to close-up camera. Wow, look how bright it makes it look, even with all the lights out. The camera's too good. Cycle through the colors here. That turns it off entirely. That's the very, very faded blue glow. Push it again. It's just the same blue, just darker. I guess I want to say it's brighter, not darker. And then push it again and you'll see it breathe into that orange. Fades in and fades out. It's breathing. Press it one more time, it becomes static orange. It won't change. Stays one static level. Press it again, it'll do the same with red. Press it again, and it cycles back to the rainbow effect. Well, that definitely didn't have as good of a image as I was hoping for. So we'll go back to camera 1. Just demonstrate that one more time. That's turning it off entirely. That's that very low, subtle, light blue. Press it again. It's a brighter blue. Press it again. And it breathes in orange. Press it again. The brighter orange that is static. Press it again. Breathing in red. Press it again. Back to the rainbow. And what if we hold it in? Does it do anything different? Well, that appears to be the gamut. So, there you have it. I'll bring the studio lights back up. So again, let me get my close-up camera out of the way. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody, for hanging out with me this Friday. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoyable weekend. Weather here in Phoenix has been lovely. Finally, I'll enjoy the 2 weeks of it that we get in the fall and the 2 weeks we'll get in the spring. Then it's either way too hot or extremely cold. The desert can get very extreme. But right now it's fantastic. It's a great time. One of my favorite times of the year is the fall. It took us a while though. I mean, we're still running very high temperatures here for this late in the year. But at least we're not hitting the 100-degree days anymore. We're staying in the 80s. I'm happy if we get into, highs in the 70s, but I still think we're a month away from that. In the meantime, thanks once again to everybody who has contributed during today's live stream, which includes, here they are. PSC Computers Missouri and BLD 0550. Mats Olaf Rickardson. Thank you to Paul Connolly, who just became a member today. Thank you for becoming a member of our tech club. Kat Blinsky, thank you for your contribution. Frankie B, thank you for your super chat and your Amazon gift card. As generous as ever. Appreciate you very much, my friend. Avery Ramsdorf and Nick Caffrey, Colin Hunt and Craig Casabona, Ben Laird and Steve H, Mike Dane Jr., Ian Gooch, I missed your contribution earlier with a 10-pound super chat. Says, hey, Carey, greetings from London, 43 degrees Fahrenheit, cold evening and getting colder. 43 sounds lovely, Ian. Sorry, I missed that earlier, and it looks like just another one. Daniel Vixna with a 2-pound contribution says, good evening, Carey. Greetings from Taunton, UK. Sorry, I missed those earlier. Again, thank you to Peter Laycock and Ben Laird and Paul O'Brien, and for the folks that have renewed their memberships, Mark Gaines, Craig Casabona, Alej Tepej, Chris Johnson. Thank you for renewing your membership here. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate it very much. And you're enabling me to continue to be independent and do our reviews of products that we purchase. We don't necessarily have to rely on manufacturers sending us product or requiring us to say things or not say things. I don't want to be that channel. Most YouTube tech channels, that's what they do. There's no point in me doing it when it's already being done by so many others. If there gets to be a point where most YouTube tech channels are independent and not taking those sponsorships, I won't feel such an important need to do what I'm doing. And thank you for helping me to do that. Thanks to everybody who joins us in the chat and participates with us during the live feed. And thank you for watching. Thanks to Marlena for creating the thumbnail used in today's video and setting up all the video notes and links and maintaining the chat room for us. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Oh, I almost forgot, with the contributions that were given via PayPal and Amazon gift cards. A shout out and a thank you once more to Luke Greenia, Dan Nilsson, Avery Ramsdorf, Frankie B, of course, and I already said Luke Greenia, right? Thanks, guys. Thank you again. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all again very, very soon. And remember, on Mondays at 1 o'clock, well, I guess I should say 12 p.m. Pacific time, which is 1 p.m. Phoenix time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time. I always do a live video for members only seen by members. Chat room is only open to members. If you're a member, please join us. Do know that every Monday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, those videos are for you, for the members. If I can do anything for the members, if you want to reach out to me personally, you're always welcome to. I'm always glad to hear from you. Always identify yourself as a member in your emails so I know who you are. And feel like I'm forgetting something. But if I have time this weekend, I will go live. I'm not sure yet. I have a lot to catch up with, though. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all very, very soon. Have a great, happy Friday and rest of your weekend. Until next time, bye for now.